Hello and welcome to Voice of the Voiceless, Speak Your Truth. Today we are doing a podcast on birth and in particular the role of women's or the mother's instincts in birth and undisturbed birth, and we'll go a bit deeper into different types of birthing like the Wise Hippo Program and conscious birth. So today I have Doula Michelle and Doula Sandy here with me again. So Sandy has 37 years experience of nursing and 10 years ago decided to become a doula and has since also become a hypnobirthing instructor and a Wise Hippo instructor. She strongly supports women's rights to have choices during childbirth and is particularly passionate about lotus birth. So we did a podcast on lotus birth recently, so if you're interested in that, that's up there on my website. So Michelle had Sandy as a doula for her fourth baby and had such a fulfilling and joyful experience that she wanted to become a doula herself and also a Wise Hippo instructor. Sandy and Michelle were working together in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, but Michelle recently moved to Traralgon and now services pregnant mums in the Latrobe Valley. She's the creator of the Doula Sanctuary and is an eclectic doula who offers counselling, energy healing, meditation, plant-based nutrition guidance and postnatal doulaing. So if you want to get in contact with either Michelle or Sandy, either for their services or if you have any questions, feel free to email me at emily.speakyourtruth@gmail.com and I'm happy to get you in contact with either of them. So today, as I said, we're talking about birth. So to start with, what role does a mother's instincts play in birth?
Well, I guess that we first need to understand that we are mammals. Yeah, and no mammal needs to be taught or told how to birth. The problem today is all the fear that's around birth. So fear's really covering our natural instincts, and it's like we've lost touch with, what we should and shouldn't be doing or what our body's telling us to do today.
We've been conditioned for a long time. I'd like to tell you a story about a midwife in America some years ago. She got fed up with working in the hospital system, so she got a job with a pharmaceutical company, and it was her job to drive around and go out on the farms and sell the product to the farmers. One of the farms that she went out to was a stud farm, and the owner of the stud farm had got to know this lady over a period of time, and one day his brood mare was about to have a foal. And he said to the midwife, she'd just arrived, and he said, "Oh, you might be interested in this. Would you like to come and have a look? Watch the mare giving birth?" And she said, "Oh, I'd love to." So they went over to the stables. They didn't go into the stables, but they had a little vantage point where they could just observe, and the mare couldn't see them. Now, the mare was in her stall. It was a nice dark stall with clean hay, and in the corner was the strapper, a man that she was very familiar with, and he was just squatting down in the corner, talking very quietly to the mare that was in labour. The mare laboured away beautifully, quietly, and it wasn't very long before she gave birth to her little foal. The midwife came away from that experience thinking to herself, "Oh my goodness, what a beautiful, undisturbed birth. Why are we not doing this for our women in hospitals, when in fact in our hospitals we are doing the reverse. We're doing the opposite. We're disturbing the birth constantly and continually. Could you move here, please? Could you turn here? I just need to do a vaginal examination. Would you, questions, more questions. Questions are very disturbing during birth because it stimulates the neocortex. The neocortex is our thinking brain, whereas we need to be in our old reptilian brain, the old mammalian brain, the brain that knows how to give birth.
And we're all born with that. It's in us. We're a woman. If we can fall pregnant, then it's already in us of how to birth that baby, yeah? But as you were saying, there's so many rules and boundaries in our birthing system today that our heads are taking over our hearts and our instincts. And, you know, we do want capable hands around us, maybe to feel safe. Some women might want that, but we don't want hands that are tied. And as soon as you've got somebody with a license, then they're going to come with a set of rules, a set of boundaries, and they're going to have their own fear of not wanting to lose their license, not wanting to lose their job. And the sad part is that can often be a driving force now when it comes to decisions, rather than what's my instinct telling me. Because not only does the birthing woman have an instinct, but those in the room around her have an instinct, particularly women. I think some men have that as well. But if you don't have the fear of, I guess, losing your job or your license, or just fear of birth in general, then you'll have an instinct of what that woman needs. Like, I really think she needs to get up and go for a walk. And it can be done in a beautiful, undisturbed way. So there's undisturbed birth in the way of the woman doesn't need anything and you're holding space and she does it all on her own. And then there's undisturbed in the way of a supportive way of approaching her. So the woman's really familiar with you. It's not someone that she's just met on the day, which often happens with a hospital birth. You don't know what midwife you've got. There could be a shift change. You might click with one person and not the next. And I mean, that's a huge disturbance in a birth for a woman. And that can cause her to hold on to that baby as well. And you can be on a bit of a time limit as soon as you're in that hospital as well. So, yeah, one thing leads to another. But you can approach that woman and offer her some water, or suggest that she does go for a walk and things like that, without it being a disturbed birth. Do you agree, Sandy?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a simple little thing like a change of position.
Yeah.
And the mother may not have thought of it, and if the doula just whispers it quietly in her ear, if the mother chooses to, she will get up and move around. And that's right, it's about the mother following her instincts, but it's also about the mother feeling free to be able to follow her instincts. And very sadly, in our hospitals today, as Michelle was saying, the midwives are fearful of upholding the hospital protocols. The hospital protocols are set in cement, it seems. It seems that they never seem to change, even though we have scientific research and information that tells us something totally different. It takes a very, very long for any changes to filter through down to hospital protocols. And unfortunately, midwives have to uphold these protocols. If they don't, they're called up, they're hauled up, and they can lose their registration. So that's where doulas have the advantage. Doulas have the advantage in that we're able to be able to give the continuity of care to the woman. We're able to teach her during her pregnancy, be at the birth with her, and then visit her and support her postnatally. So there's no worry about shift change. The midwives can change shifts. It doesn't matter. If you've got a doula with you, you have your continuity of care. And that is really one of the most important things that's required for a woman giving birth.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing we're seeing with our midwives is there are a lot of young midwives, and a lot of them haven't had babies themselves, and even if they have, most of them have never attended a home birth. If you speak to them and say, how many home births have you been to? Have you ever seen a free birth? Do you know what a free birth is? Things like that. They don't know what that looks like. So the picture of birth that is painted is normal for them. And yeah, it's kind of sad because I'm pretty sure that the study and the licensing that they have comes from the pharmaceutical industry, which is all written by men. As we know, this doesn't come from the wisdom of the woman. And yeah, obviously I think every doula out there would like to see that change, but it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, like you said, it takes years for these changes to filter down.
It does.
I liked the picture you painted there about undisturbed birth, and that made it feel like a really primitive sort of state the woman's in, like the reptilian brain.
Yes.
And sort of like having this energy field, and when that's disturbed, then that changes everything. and I had a question, and now I've forgotten.
Oh, good. Must be catching.
Yeah, so I guess I was just... You sort of answered already, Michelle. I was curious about how a woman can have an undisturbed birth but then still be supported. And I'm guessing it would be something about that familiarity where it doesn't really disturb that sort of energy field because it's not something strange coming in and disturbing you.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, we teach women and couples a lot of tools through the Wise Hippo Birthing Program so that it doesn't matter where their birth takes place. They can feel relaxed and calm and confident, and they know what to do, because often plans don't go to plan. There's women that have their babies at the side of the road, as Sandy's niece did, yeah? And babies you might be, planning a beautiful hospital birth and the baby comes on the bathroom floor at home, or, vice versa. You plan a home birth and then you decide that actually this isn't feeling right for me. And that's actually something I do like to stress a lot, because undisturbed birth, we focus a lot on home birth, and as much as I'm a huge advocate of it, I do like to voice to the woman that if at any time she's feeling like she's not actually safe, she doesn't have to follow through with that. And it doesn't matter if she has the baby. If she feels safer at the hospital, then she's better off being there. She can still have a beautiful birth, because it's what matters to the woman. It doesn't matter about what the story of the birth is itself. It's almost competitive now with birth stories. And, I think we should all openly be able to share our birth stories, and not like the good stories, you get shut down a lot. Yeah, so that's a shame. We're not hearing as many good stories now, and we're hearing all the traumatic ones, and then we do blame a lot of that on the hospital, and as much of it is or can be caused by perhaps their approach, it's also because of the lack of education, and people aren't aware of what it means to have a hospital birth. So if you know what that means, and you've got all the tools in place, then you're not going to have a problem. Yeah. The only thing I find extremely unnatural about hospital birth is that we're grouping a bunch of mammals together and birthing them in a space with no fresh air. And no mammal does that. You might see an elephant birthing and she has a herd of elephants standing around her to create that safety, but they're not all birthing together. Yeah, so for a woman to hear another woman as the door opens, that's, I don't know, it can do something to you and your energy, and personally I felt that with my second. So it's just something to be conscious of.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, actually. Yeah, I had a similar thing happen when I was giving birth to my second one. I wasn't actually giving birth at the time. I was just labouring, but I was at the hospital, and just outside my room, they'd left the door open, and a man was up the ladder in a manhole.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my God, that disturbed me. It really irritated me.
It would. And you don't forget.
It seems like it's such
stories.
a small thing. And yes, this is something that happened, I'm trying to think how old my daughter is now, 46 years ago, and I still remember it very clearly.
Apparently there was a study done that women that have Alzheimer's will forget everything, but they won't forget their birth story. Now, whether that's 100% true or not, but when I heard that, I thought, wow. It just opened me to how
powerful it is.
And, women are created to have babies. It's such this beautiful, sacred honour that is just not honoured today. Pregnant women are not treated the way they should be.
Mothers aren't treated the way they ought to be in our country,
Definitely not, I know.
Motherhood is undervalued.
And a lot of it is, we do bring it on ourselves as well, because in a way we've tried to bring back our feminine power through being a man. So we want to match them in the way with our careers and things like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it does something to the culture of birth and how we're birthing our babies and becoming mothers. And a lot of mums now